During lunch, Soren explained what he planned to do while feeding Ethea the simple vegetable soup he'd prepared. Hiring a caregiver, registering at the Awakened Bureau, and finding work to earn money for their expenses. Surprisingly, she accepted everything without any resistance. Perhaps she understood he couldn't always be there. Perhaps she was equally worried about the private matters that neither of them wanted to address directly. Either way, she agreed. That was enough. A few minutes after 1 p.m., the doorbell rang once more. Soren, who just finished cleaning the kitchen, wiped his hands on a towel and headed to the front door, composing himself. He opened it. A woman in her mid-40s stood on the porch. She had a round, kind face with gentle eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. Her graying hair was covered by a traditional headscarf wrapped neatly around her head. She wore a long, modest dress in muted colors with a professional robe over top, both practical and respectful. A small professional bag hung from her shoulder. "Mr. Valmere?" Her voice was warm and steady. "Yes, you must be Lady Clara." "That's right." She smiled. "Thank you for having me. Please, come in." Soren stepped aside, watching her as she entered. The way she moved was unhurried, calm. Her gaze swept the entryway briefly before settling back on him. Observant, but not judgmental. "My wife is upstairs," he added. "I'd like you to meet her first, if that's all right." "Of course. That's the most important part." Soren then led her up the stairs, his senses heightened. Although he appeared normal, he tracked every detail about her expression. But there was nothing wrong with her, just professional composure and genuine warmth. They reached the bedroom, and he opened the door. Ethea was in her wheelchair by the window, staring out at the small backyard. She turned at the sound of the door. "Ethea, Lady Clara's here." Ethea's ice-blue eyes shifted from Soren to the stranger, assessing. Clara stepped forward with that same gentle smile and crouched to be at eye level. "Hello, dear. My name is Clara." Her voice was soft, respectful. There was no trace of condescension. Ethea stared at her silently. Clara didn't flinch or look away. She just waited, patient and steady. They talked for a while. Well, Clara talked. Ethea listened. The woman spoke about herself, her experience, her approach to care, and her philosophy about treating people with dignity. She asked a few questions, but never pushed for answers. When Ethea didn't respond, she simply moved on to the next topic. Occasionally, Ethea gave a tiny nod. Once, a single word. But Clara accepted it all without comment. After a moment, she continued. "I know having a stranger in your home must be uncomfortable, but I'm here to help however you need. And if at any point you're unhappy with my care, just tell your husband. I'll leave, no questions asked." Silence stretched between them. Then Ethea's lips moved. "What?" Clara tilted her head slightly. "Are you asking, why am I doing this work?" Ethea gave a faint nod. Clara's expression softened. "It's because I understand what you're going through. When I was younger, I couldn't walk either. I was born that way. I couldn't do anything for myself." Soren's attention sharpened. So there was such a thing? He kept his face neutral, but filed the information away. He'd need to verify it later, of course. Trust was earned, not given. But if true. "But I had someone," Clara continued. "A neighbor woman who lived 2 doors down. She was already retired, a former nurse. Every day, she came to my house. Helped me eat, helped me wash, helped me with exercises that felt pointless at the time." Her eyes grew distant, lost in memory. "I was angry back then. At the world, at my body, at everyone who could do things I couldn't. I pushed her away more times than I can count. Yelled at her. Told her to leave me alone. She smiled softly. She never did." Soren listened in silence. It took years. Years of little progress, of setbacks, of wanting to give up. But she was always there. And one day, I moved my toe. Just a little. Then my foot. Then I stood, with her holding me up. Clara paused, her eyes glistening slightly. "When I awakened later, my body finally healed completely. I could walk on my own feet, run, dance, things I'd only dreamed of as a child. And when that happened, I knew what I wanted to do with my life." She looked directly at Ethea. "I wanted to help others the way she helped me. To be that person for someone who needs it. The room was quiet. Ethea studied her for a long moment. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. All right. Clara's smile widened in relief and joy. Thank you for trusting me. Then, let's go down and sign the deal. Soren suggested and led Clara downstairs to the small living room. He prepared tea, and they sat across from each other. However, before talking about the contract, he did a small interview. Asked about her background, her experience, and her references. He even mentioned what happened last night, not the details, just that there had been an incident and he needed someone he could trust. Clara answered everything honestly, and by the end of the interview, Soren was satisfied. Thank you. Clara smiled. So I'm hired. Yeah. When can you start? Today, if you need. Soren nodded. They worked out the schedule. Afternoon and evening today instead of morning, so that he could handle his business at the Awakened Bureau without worry. They signed the contract. Then he led her back upstairs, explained the arrangement to Ethea, and grabbed his jacket. At the door, he paused. He saw Lady Clara talking to Ethea while unpacking her things. With a satisfied smile, he left the house. However, he remained outside, staring at the hovering window in his vision. Name, Clara Hart. Status, healthy. Age, 47. Rank, first circle, peak. Current mana level, moderate, 90-54. Mental state, stable, content. Investment value, low. Potential, third circle, estimated. He'd used his authority skill on her during the interview. He would be an idiot not to use it. And this was the biggest reason why he agreed to this so easily. But Soren didn't dare to gamble. He leaned against the fence and waited. He focused on Tetherbond, on that faint connection to Ethea somewhere upstairs. This was the item he got from the returns, which would allow him to sense Ethea's location and sense if she was in danger. A pretty useful tool indeed. However, even after half an hour, nothing noteworthy happened. It seems like he was worried for nothing. All right, let's take care of the registration first. Soren pushed off the fence and headed down the street. And get a hunter's license if possible. Half an hour later, Soren arrived at his destination. The Kalmyra Awakened Registry Bureau stood in the Merchant's Crown District. A large, modern building made of reinforced concrete and mana-infused glass. The structure was imposing, angular, and designed to withstand gate-break incidents. Silver banners bearing the Bureau's emblem hung from the entrance. Soren pushed through the heavy glass doors into the main lobby. The space was crowded. Dozens of people milled about, some young and clearly new awakened like him, others older and more experienced. The air buzzed with overlapping mana signatures, making his newly awakened senses tingle. He approached the reception desk. A middle-aged woman with sharp eyes looked up from her terminal. Name and purpose? Soren Valmere. I awakened yesterday. Here to register and apply for a hunter's license. She typed rapidly. Date of awakening. March 1st, yesterday night. Within the 72-hour window. Good. She handed him a tablet. Fill out the initial form. Once you're done, proceed to testing wing B. Follow the blue line on the floor. Thank you. Soren took the tablet and found a bench along the wall. The form was extensive. Personal information, medical history, emergency contacts, previous occupation, reason for pursuing hunter work, and so on. He filled it out methodically, answering honestly where it mattered and vaguely where it didn't. Date of birth, April 15th, year 175 PA. Age, 22. Education. He submitted the form and followed the blue line through a corridor into the testing facility. The testing wing was divided into sections. Physical assessment areas, mana testing chambers, ability evaluation rooms, etc. Technicians in white coats moved between stations, managing equipment and guiding examinees. A young man with a clipboard approached. Soren Valmere? Yes. I'm Technician Mori. I'll be overseeing your evaluation today. Follow me. Soren followed him to the first station, a cylindrical chamber made of transparent crystal. Step inside, Mori instructed. This will measure your mana capacity, affinity, and core stability. Stand still and circulate your mana naturally. Soren entered the chamber. The door sealed with a soft hiss. The crystal walls began to glow, pulsing with light. He felt gentle pressure against his core, like invisible fingers probing his energy. He circulated his mana as instructed, letting it flow through the pathways established by the glacial emperor scripture. The crystal walls flared brighter. Blue light dominated, swirling in intricate patterns. A secondary color appeared as well, pale green, fainter but present. After a minute, the light faded. The door opened. Technician Mori studied his tablet, eyes widening. Interesting, he muttered. Very interesting. Is something wrong? Wrong? No. Quite the opposite. Mori looked up. Congratulations, you have dual affinity. Ice primary, wind secondary. And both are high grade. He gestured toward the next station. Place your hand on the evaluation crystal. Soren pressed his palm against a smooth, spherical crystal mounted on a pedestal. It flared with light, projecting a holographic display. Affinity evaluation. Primary affinity, ice. Grade, 7, S rank. Potency high. Compatibility, excellent. Secondary affinity, wind. Grade, 5, B rank. Potency moderate. Compatibility, good. Innate abilities. 1. Accelerated regeneration. Grade, C rank. Type, biological enhancement. Effect, advanced healing, toxin resistance. 2. Fortified body constitution. Grade, D rank. Type, physical enhancement. Effect, 5x baseline human capability. Circle rank. Current, first circle, early stage. Core capacity, 2,547/10,000. Core stability, excellent. Pathway integrity, excellent. Overall assessment. Rank, high potential, S-class. Classification, combat type awakened. Recommended path, hunter/gate clearing. Estimated peak, 7th circle. Technician Mori stared at the display, then at Soren, then back at the display. Grade 7 Ice Affinity. S-rank talent. He shook his head slowly. That's top 5% globally. Dual affinity on top of that. And 2 innate abilities. He tapped something on his tablet, then froze. Wait. How old are you? 22. Mori's eyes widened further. 22? You awakened at 22. Yes. Just yesterday. That's... Mori looked genuinely stunned. That's unheard of. The latest recorded natural awakening is 20. Anything past that requires artificial stimulus or extreme trauma, and even then, it almost never works. He studied Soren with open curiosity now. What happened? What triggered it? Soren kept his expression neutral. It was a life-threatening situation. So extreme stress awakening. Mori made rapid notes. At age 22 with S-rank affinity and dual innates. This is going to cause a stir. A stir. Your data will be flagged immediately. The Bureau, the guilds, probably even the National Awakened Defense Corps will want to talk to you. Soren's jaw tightened slightly. I set my profile to restricted. Smart. But it won't stop official organizations. Mori glanced at him. The Bureau especially. They recruit high potential awakened for government work. You'll probably get contacted within a week. I see. One more test. Physical assessment. Mori led him to a training area with various equipment. Show me what you can do. Strength, speed, endurance. Soren moved through the tests. He lifted 250 kilograms overhead without strain. His sprint clocked at 48 miles per hour. His stamina held through 15 minutes of continuous exertion without fatigue. The fortified body constitution was indeed powerful despite being AD rank ability. Mori recorded everything, increasingly impressed. All right, that's sufficient. Let's process your license. 20 minutes later, Soren held his official hunter's license. A sleek card made of reinforced material, embedded with a mana signature chip. Name, Soren Valmere. ID, KAL, 1973-047821. Age, 22. Rank, first circle. Hunter rank, F. License type, standard hunter. Issued, March 2nd, year 197 PA. Mori then handed him an information packet. Access codes for the Hunter Network. App and web portal. You can access gate schedules, equipment vendors, party recruitment, legal resources, and many more. One more thing. Mori's expression turned serious. As a new first circle, I strongly recommend that you don't attempt solo gates immediately. Join a party first. Get experience. A lot of rookies die because they overestimate themselves. Understood. Just as Soren turned to leave, a woman in a formal suit approached. She was in her 30s, sharp-featured, with an official bureau badge on her lapel. Her mana signature was strong. Fourth circle at least. Mr. Valmere, she said smoothly. I'm Senior Administrator Vera from the Bureau's Talent Acquisition Department. Do you have a moment? Soren stopped. For a brief conversation about opportunities with the Kalmyra Bureau. Given your exceptional evaluation results, we'd like to discuss potential career paths that might interest you. Her smile was professional, but her eyes were calculating. I appreciate the offer, Soren said carefully, but I'm not interested in joining an organization right now. I have personal matters to handle first. Of course, family comes first. Her smile didn't waver. But please, take my card. When you're ready to consider your options, we offer excellent benefits. Training resources, access to restricted gates, stable income, protection. She handed him a sleek black business card. Administrator Vera Lewis. Talent Acquisition Department. Kalmyra Awakened Registry Bureau. Direct line 555-0198. Thank you. I'll keep it in mind. Please do. And Mr. Valmere. Her tone shifted slightly. Your profile may be restricted, but S-rank potential doesn't stay hidden long. You'll receive many offers. I hope you'll choose carefully and keep us in mind. She nodded one last time and walked away. Soren pocketed the card and left the building. Outside, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows. He looked down at the license in his hand, his lips curling up faintly. He was a registered hunter now, which meant he could start earning real money. Enough to afford those healing meals. Enough to support Ethea's recovery properly. Soren pulled out his phone and opened the Hunter Network app. The interface loaded. Hunter Network, Kalmyra branch. Welcome, Soren Valmere. Available features. Gate schedule and availability. Party recruitment board. Equipment market. Resource exchange. Quest listings. Training facilities. He navigated to the gate schedule. Several first circle gates were available in the Kalmyra region. However, none of them permitted a solo clear. He continued scrolling and finally stopped at the title. First circle gate, Azure Slime Forest. Status, open, solo permitted. Soren stared at it before tapping. Should I try my luck? Should I try my luck? He hesitated. Slimes. He knew about slimes. A lot, actually. They were one of the weakest monsters in existence. Well, most of them. And they were recommended for beginners like him. They had low threat level, slow movement, and predictable attack patterns. It was a perfect first gate, in theory. But Soren's jaw tightened. I don't know how to fight. Not really. Sure, he'd thrown punches before. Street scuffles. Schoolyard fights when he was younger. He knew the basics of brawling with humans. But monsters? He'd fought one monster in his life. The assassin last night. And he'd barely survived. That fight had been messy, desperate, instinct-driven. He'd crashed into the attacker with pure momentum and gotten lucky. If the assassin had been even slightly more prepared, Soren would be dead. I can't rely on luck in a gate. Gates were enclosed spaces. There was no escape and no running away if things went wrong. If he went in unprepared and underestimated the situation, he'd die. Simple as that. Soren exhaled slowly and closed the gate listing. Let's not do it yet. I need to learn how to fight properly first. He navigated to a different section of the Hunter Network. Training facilities. The list loaded. Dozens of options appeared, gyms and dojos scattered throughout Kalmyra, each specializing in different combat styles. Hand-to-hand, swordsmanship, archery, spear arts, axework, mixed combat. Soren scrolled through them, reading descriptions. I need a weapon that I can learn quickly. His thoughts drifted to the Ice Emperor's legacy. The first star technique, Frost Palm Strike, was a close-range technique. It was powerful, but he'd need proper combat fundamentals to use it effectively. More importantly, he needed something practical, something he could use right now. What about a spear? Spears were beginner-friendly. Simple mechanics. Keep a distance. Thrust. Defend. Effective even without advanced technique. He filtered the search. Spear training, beginner level. Several facilities appeared. He checked their ratings, locations, and prices. One caught his eye. Iron Reach Dojo. Location, Steelheart District. Specialty, Spear Combat, beginner to advanced. Instructor, Marcus Varn, 3rd Circle, 15 years of experience. Price, 500 credits per session, 2.5 hours, 5,000 to 10,000 monthly subscriptions. Rating, 4.7/5, 182 reviews. Soren checked the time. 3:32 p.m. Clara's shift ended at 7 p.m. That gave him 3.5 hours. 3 hours to train if he left now. Perfect. He tapped the booking option and reserved a session starting at 4 p.m. Booking confirmed. Session, Beginner Spear Combat. Time, 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Payment, 500 credits. Soren stood from the bench outside the bureau and pocketed his phone. He raised his hand and hailed a taxi. A sleek black vehicle pulled over almost immediately. The doors slid open automatically. "Where to?" the driver asked, glancing back. "Steelheart District. Iron Reach Dojo." "Got it. We will be there in 15 minutes." Soren climbed in, and the taxi pulled away from the curb. He leaned back against the seat, watching the city pass by through the window. Merchants Crown District gave way to industrial zones, then residential blocks, then finally the training district, where most combat facilities clustered. The taxi stopped in front of a sturdy building made of dark stone and reinforced steel. A sign hung above the entrance. Iron Reach Dojo. Spear Combat Specialists. Soren paid the fare and stepped out. The building looked simple and ordinary, with no flashy signs, which he liked a little. Then, he pushed through the front door. The interior was spacious. High ceilings. Polished wooden floors. Training dummies lined one wall. Weapon racks held various spears, staffs, and polearms. A few students were already training in the back, their movements sharp and controlled. A receptionist at the front desk looked up. "Name?" "Soren Valmere. I have a session at 5 p.m. She checked her screen. "Confirmed. Beginner Spear Combat, with Instructor Varn. He'll be with you shortly. You can wait in the prep area." "Thank you." Soren moved to the side and sat on a bench. He watched the students training. Their footwork was clean. Their strikes were precise. Their breathing was controlled. This is what real combat training looks like. He watched silently, trying to learn a thing or two. However, he didn't understand their moves that much. "It's harder than I thought." He smiled bitterly. But then again, how could it be so easy? Learning would take time and practice. Well, unless you were a genius. A few minutes later, a man approached. He was tall and broad-shouldered, probably in his late 30s. His hair was cropped short, and a jagged scar ran down the left side of his face. He wore simple training gear and carried a wooden practice spear. "Soren Valmere?" His voice was gruff, but not unfriendly. "Yes. I'm Marcus Varn, your instructor for today." He studied Soren briefly. "First time with a spear?" "First time in a gate." "Not yet. Planning one soon." Marcus nodded. "Smart. Learning before diving in. You'd be surprised how many idiots skip this step and get themselves killed." He then gestured toward the training floor. "Come on. Let's see what you can do." Soren stood and followed him. "First, change into the training uniform. Locker rooms through that door." Marcus pointed to a side entrance. Soren nodded and went inside. He changed quickly and returned to the training floor. Marcus then led Soren to a sectioned-off training room. Padded mats covered the floor. Mirrors lined one wall. Practice spears stood in a rack near the corner. Marcus grabbed 2 wooden spears and tossed one to Soren. Soren caught it awkwardly. "Before we start," Marcus said, crossing his arms, "answer a few questions." He didn't wait for a nod. The questions came in a relentless barrage. each one designed to poke at Soren's lack of experience. Have you fought before? Any training? Martial arts? Self-defense? Ever held a weapon? Why choose spear? Planning to enter gates soon? What made you register as a hunter? Etc. Soren answered each time honestly. When he finished, Marcus studied him, expression unreadable. Then he frowned slightly. You said you awakened yesterday? I see. Marcus nodded slowly, thinking, no wonder Soren was no different from an ordinary, average man. Then everything makes sense. He gestured toward the center of the room. All right, let's start. Soren moved to where Marcus indicated. All right, first things first, Marcus said, gesturing to the weapon. Show me how you'd hold it. Just do what feels right. Soren gripped the shaft with both hands near the middle, trying to find a balance point. Marcus circled him, his eyes tracking Soren's hands. Not a bad instinct, honestly, but it's wrong. You're holding it like a staff, Soren. You're not a monk. He stepped in and nudged Soren's rear hand down toward the butt of the spear. Keep this one at the base. This is your engine. All your power starts here. Then he adjusted Soren's lead hand, sliding it higher up. This one? This is just for the steering. It guides the point, directs the thrust. Feel the weight shift. Soren adjusted his fingers, the wood grain biting into his palms. The balance was awkward, but the spear felt anchored. Better. Now, let's look at your feet. You're standing like a statue. Marcus dropped into a stance, his knees slightly bent and his torso bladed. Never face a guy head-on. You aren't a wall. Turn your body. Make yourself a smaller target so there's less of you to hit. Soren mirrored him, shifting his weight. Keep your back foot anchored and the front one ready to move. Think 60-40 weight distribution. Keep most of it on that back leg. You with me? Yeah, I think so. The next hour dissolved into a blur of repetition. Thrust. Reset. Thrust. Reset. Relax your shoulders, kid. You're fighting the spear, not the enemy. Thrust. Reset. Now add the feet. Step into the kill, step back for the recovery. Keep it fluid. Thrust. Step. Withdraw. Step back. Keep your eyes on the imaginary chest in front of you. Stop looking at your own hands. They aren't going anywhere. Soren's forearms began to scream. His quads burned, and a bead of sweat stung his eye, but Marcus didn't offer a break. They cycled through defensive angles and basic footwork patterns until Soren's movements became more muscle memory than conscious thought. That's enough, Marcus finally called out, raising a hand. Soren let the spear tip drop to the mat, his lungs heaving. Marcus watched him for a moment, wiping his own hands on a towel. You've got a good head for this. You pick up the mechanics faster than most. Soren wiped his brow. But knowing it and doing it under pressure are two different worlds. Your brain gets it, but your body is still clueless. But don't worry, that changes with enough time and practice. Marcus leaned his own spear against the rack. Come back for 5 or 6 more sessions. By the end of that, you'll be able to hold your own. You won't be a master, but you might actually survive your first scrap. Soren nodded, his voice a bit raspy. I'll be here. Thank you. And do me a favor, Marcus added, pointing a finger at him. Stay out of the gates until we've done at least 3 more of these. Don't go getting yourself killed before the check clears. Understood. Marcus gave him a firm clap on the shoulder. You've got potential, Soren. Just don't waste it by being impatient. By the time Soren changed and stepped out of the dojo, the sky had bruised into a deep purple. The orange hum of the streetlights reflected off the damp pavement. He checked his phone, 7:38 p.m. Clara would be finishing up soon. He hailed a taxi, leaning his aching back against the seat as the city blurred past. Today was exhausting. By the time Soren arrived home, the evening had settled into quiet darkness. He paid the taxi driver and stepped out, his legs still aching from the training. Inside, soft light spilled from the living room. He pushed the door open. Ethea sat in her wheelchair near the small table. Clara sat across from her, speaking gently about something Soren couldn't quite hear. Both turned when he entered. Soren nodded at them. Sorry for being late. And thank you, Lady Clara. Clara shook her head with a warm smile. No need to apologize. It's my work. And your timing is perfect, actually. I was just about to leave. She stood, gathering her bag. Would you like to stay for dinner? Soren offered. That's kind of you, but I'll have to decline. Clara's smile remained gentle. I see. Soren nodded. Then let me at least call you a taxi. No need. My husband is already on his way to pick me up. He should be here any moment now. Clara moved toward the door, pausing to glance back at Ethea. See you tomorrow. Ethea's expression remained neutral, but she gave the faintest nod. And Mr. Soren. Clara turned to Soren. I've taken care of everything. You can rest assured till my next visit. Well, then, I'll be on my way. All right. Soren followed her outside and waited on the porch. A few minutes later, headlights appeared down the street. A modest sedan pulled up to the curb, and an older man with kind eyes leaned over from the driver's seat, waving. Clara waved back and turned to Soren. That's him. Have a good evening, Mr. Valmere. You too. Soren watched as she climbed into the car. The sedan pulled away, taillights disappearing into the night. Only then did he return inside. Ethea was still sitting by the table, her gaze fixed somewhere distant. Soren moved behind her wheelchair and began wheeling her toward the kitchen. Let me make some tea. He settled her near the counter where she could see him work, then filled the kettle and set it to boil. As he prepared the tea, he started to talk, from how the awakening went to nearly collapsing from tiredness in the dojo. He only stopped when the kettle began to whistle. Soren poured the hot water over the carefully measured tea leaves and rare herbs, watching the liquid turn a pale, luminous silver. He let the tea steep, the delicate aroma filling the kitchen. Sweet, calming, with an undertone of something ancient. That's why I was late. Sorry if I made you worry. Ethea hadn't responded, but he could feel her attention on him. Soren poured the tea into a cup and brought it over, pulling a chair close to her wheelchair. Here, this should help you sleep better tonight. He held the cup carefully to her lips, tilting it just enough for her to sip. After giving him a stare, Ethea drank. The moment the liquid touched her tongue, something shifted in her expression. Her eyes widened briefly. The warmth spread through her chest. It flowed through her damaged pathways like cool water over burnt ground, easing the constant, low-grade ache she'd learned to ignore. Her breathing steadied. The tension in her shoulders, always present, loosened just slightly. Ethea instantly realized that this wasn't ordinary tea. Her gaze snapped to Soren. He was smiling, the same calm, unassuming expression he always wore, as if he'd done nothing unusual at all. He didn't explain anything and just continued helping her drink, one careful sip at a time, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. Although she wanted to demand an answer, the herbal warmth was already pulling her toward sleep. A rare, blossoming peace eclipsed the mystery of the tea. Soren set the empty cup aside and stood. Let's get you to bed. He wheeled Ethea back to the bedroom. The broken window had been replaced earlier in the day. A local handyman had come while Clara was there, installing new reinforced glass. Soren had also added a simple detection charm near the frame, a basic security measure he'd bought from the Hunter Network app. It would alert him if anyone tried to enter through the window or even the door again. It was not perfect, but it was better than nothing. He carefully lifted Ethea from the wheelchair and placed her on the bed, adjusting the blankets around her. I'll be back in a bit, he said quietly. She didn't respond, just watched him with those ice blue eyes. Soren left the room and headed to the bathroom. The hot water felt like heaven on his aching muscles. He washed quickly, scrubbing away the sweat and soreness from the training session, then dried off and changed into clean clothes. When he returned to the bedroom, Ethea was still awake, lying in the same position. Soren moved to his futon by the door, but instead of lying down, he sat in a lotus position. I should cultivate as much as I can. He closed his eyes, letting his breathing slow, but he could feel her gaze on him, watching him silently. He chose to ignore it and sank into meditation. The glacial emperor scripture guided his awareness inward. He began drawing mana from the air, circulating it through his pathways, refining it through the frozen refinement process. Time blurred. The room grew colder as ice mana accumulated around him. Frost formed on the floor in a faint circle. Hours passed. Soren cultivated steadily, his core gradually filling, layer by layer. When he finally opened his eyes, the room was still dark. He blinked groggily, checking the time on his phone. 2:47 a.m. He'd cultivated for nearly 5 hours. His body felt energized from the mana circulation, but his mind was exhausted. Mental fatigue pressed down on him like a weight. I should sleep now. He glanced toward the bed. Ethea had finally fallen asleep, her breathing slow and even. It seems like tea did its work. Good. I hope she slept peacefully. Soren carefully lay down on his futon and closed his eyes. Within minutes, he was asleep. Several hours later, Soren's eyes opened slowly. Morning light filtered through the window. He checked his phone. 6:38 a.m. I slept about 4 hours, huh? But I feel all right. All the physical and mental fatigue had already disappeared. So this is the advantage of being an awakened. Soren stood up and left the room quietly. He headed to the bathroom first, splashing cold water on his face to wake himself up properly. Then he made his way downstairs to the kitchen. He pulled out eggs, bread, and vegetables from the small fridge. Soren cracked the eggs into the pan, watching them sizzle. Ding! He froze, hearing that familiar sound. Almost immediately, glowing text materialized in his vision. Investment detected. Target: Ethea Morvain, wife. Analyzing investment. Investment: subject provided a rare therapeutic beverage, soothing moon tea, to the target. Tea composition included high-grade medicinal herbs specifically chosen to alleviate chronic pain and improve sleep quality. Analyzing target response. Target consumed full dose. Pain levels reduced by 18%. Sleep quality improved significantly. Mental state stabilized further. Subconscious trust in the subject increased. Evaluating investment significance. Soren stared at the messages, spatula still in hand. Evaluation complete. Investment grade, low moderate. Investment type, medical care plus emotional support. Calculating returns. Dots pulsed in his vision. Calculation complete. Returns granted. A new window appeared. 1. Moonlight, tree leaves. 2. Frost whisper petals. 3. Starlight ginseng root. Integration initiated. Progress: 10%, 100%. Integration complete. Please check your inventory. Asterisk. Inventory. Soren raised his brow in confusion. What does that? Before he could finish the thought, another flux of information flooded his mind. Soren gripped the counter, taking deep breaths to stabilize himself. After a few seconds, the information settled. His expression shifted in a myriad of emotions. The investment authority has more functions? It seems like he still had more to discover about this mysterious ability of his. Soren glanced around the kitchen cautiously, making sure he was alone. Then he closed his eyes and thought clearly. Status: open. Immediately, a translucent window materialized in his vision. Personal information. Name: Soren Valmere. Age: 22. Circle rank: first circle, early stage. Hunter rank: F. Core status: mana capacity 3124/10,000. Core stability: excellent. Pathway integrity: excellent. Affinity: ice, grade 7. S rank: wind, grade 5, B rank. Innate abilities: accelerated regeneration, C rank. Fortified body constitution, D rank. Techniques and skills: Glacial Emperor Scripture, foundation stage. First star, Frost Palm Strike, 0% mastery. Heaven Treading Flash, stage 0, theory only. Quick Step, 0% mastery. Cooking Mastery, intermediate LV, 5, 53% mastery. Equipment: Tether Bond, bound to Ethea Morvain. Hunter's License, standard, grade F. Inventory: Moonlight Tree Leaves, 50G. Frost Whisper Petals, 30G. Starlight Ginseng Root, 20G. Credits: Personal account, 34,147. Investment authority, primary target. Target, Ethea Morvain, wife. Bond status, marriage contract. Investment history. First investment, supreme. Second investment, low moderate. Third investment, low moderate. Total investments, 3. Total returns received, 10. Soren stared at the display, his heart pounding. This is amazing. All the necessary info was displayed in an organized and detailed manner. He could easily track his personal progress and his investments. And it seems like Ethea had already been recognized as the primary target for his investment. Was it because he had yet to invest in others? Or was there really a special connection between his awakening and his wife? Soren wasn't sure, but he was happy to have this advantage either way. He dismissed the status screen and turned back to the stove, humming a light tune as he finished cooking. The eggs came out perfectly this time. He plated them along with some bread and vegetables, then carried everything upstairs. Ethea was awake, staring at the ceiling. Soren helped her sit up slightly and began feeding her breakfast. She ate in silence, as usual. After finishing feeding her, he headed back to the kitchen. Ding! The familiar sound echoed. Investment detected. Returns granted. Recipe collection, 5 dessert recipes. Soren smiled faintly as the knowledge settled into his mind. He has gotten used to it by now. After breakfast, he helped Ethea back into the wheelchair and brought her downstairs to the living room. He checked the time. 7:42 a.m. Clara would arrive at 8 a.m. Soren sat down and mentally planned the day. Training session at the dojo this morning. I booked it yesterday for 8:30 a.m. After that, I need to buy a proper weapon. I should also sell one of the herbs. The starlight ginseng root, maybe. That'll give me funds to buy the spear and still have money left over. It's not included in the recipes anyway. Then this afternoon, I'll practice at home. Evening session at the dojo again. At exactly 8 a.m., the doorbell rang. Soren opened the door. Clara stood there with her warm smile. Good morning, Mr. Valmere. Good morning, Lady Clara. She's in the living room. Clara nodded and stepped inside. Soren grabbed his jacket. I'll be out for a few hours. Don't hesitate to call me if anything happens. Take your time. She'll be fine. Soren glanced at Ethea one more time, then left. The day went as planned. After the morning training session, he went to the market to sell the ginseng. It was sold for 2.800 credits, making him quite satisfied. Then, he bought an F-rank steel spear for 2.000 credits and basic hunter clothes for another 1,000. After lunch, he practiced the first move of the heaven-treading flash and trained his spearmanship. In the evening, he went to dojo for another session and ended the day with a 6-hour cultivation session. The next day followed the same pattern. Morning session, afternoon practice, evening session. 2 more investments in Ethea, 2 more returns. By the third morning, Soren stood in front of the mirror, spear in hand. Marcus had said he was already ready after 3 sessions. But he still went for another 2 sessions, successfully learning a basic spear technique. Soren checked the Hunter Network app. First circle gate, Azure Slime Forest. Status, open, solo permitted. He stared at the listing and tapped reserve. Reservation confirmed. Entry time, 9 a.m. today. Soren set the phone down. Finally, today, he would challenge his first ever gate. Although it was one of the weakest and easiest, he wasn't embarrassed in the slightest. In fact, he researched about slimes and that gate for almost 30 minutes yesterday. He received strange stares from Ethea, but chose to ignore it. Well, how could he not research? Sure, slimes were weak. Sure, everyone said they were beginner-friendly. But Soren wasn't everyone. He was a guy who'd awakened at 22 after being a dud his whole life. A guy who'd nearly died fighting one assassin. A guy who'd only started holding a spear 3 days ago. So yes, he researched slimes. Their movement patterns. Their weak points. Their attack methods. How they reproduced. What they ate. Whether they had intelligence. He'd even watched tutorial videos on the Hunter Network. Top 5 Mistakes Beginners Make in Slime Gates. How to Clear Azure Slime Forest Solo, Complete Guide. Slime Core Harvesting Tips. Maximize your profit. Ethea had watched him scribbling notes with an expression that clearly said, "Is this man serious?" Yes, he was. Because embarrassment was temporary while death was permanent. When Clara arrived, Soren was already dressed in his new hunter clothes. His steel spear rested against the wall by the door. "You're going to a gate today?" Clara asked, noticing the gear. "Yes." Clara smiled warmly. "Then good luck, Mr. Valmere. I'm sure you'll do wonderfully." "Thank you." Soren then turned to Ethea, who sat in her wheelchair nearby. She was staring at him. Then, just as he was about to leave, she gave a faint nod, as if expressing her own encouragement. Soren's chest tightened slightly. He nodded back. "I'll be back soon. Stay safe." Then he grabbed his spear and left. The taxi ride took exactly 20 minutes. Soren watched the city pass by through the window, his grip tightening on the spear resting across his lap. "Don't overthink it. You've trained. You've prepared. You can do this." The taxi pulled up to a cordoned-off area in the industrial district. Soren paid the driver and stepped out. The area was quiet. A simple checkpoint barrier marked the perimeter. A single bureau official sat at a folding table, looking bored. Beyond the barrier, the gate stood alone. A vertical tear in reality, about 2 meters tall and maybe a meter wide, its edges shimmering like heat distortion, rippling constantly. Pale gray energy swirled at the rim, casting faint light across the cracked pavement. Soren went to the checkpoint and confirmed his reservation. Then he made his way toward the gate. The closer he got, the stronger the pressure became. It pushed against his skin like invisible hands trying to hold him back. The hum grew louder. His ears popped. He stopped directly in front of it. Up close, the gate was mesmerizing and terrifying. The pale gray energy swirled hypnotically. Beyond the rippling surface, he could see vague shapes and shifting colors, but nothing distinct. Just the promise of another world. Soren took a deep breath. "All right, here we go." He tightened his grip on the spear and stepped forward. The moment he touched the surface, reality twisted. The world lurched. His vision blurred. And then, he was inside.
Want to keep listening? Find the full novel on Arcwave at arcwave.app. Clean audio chapters and your progress saved across devices.